Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 12, Creation of the Kumaras and Others. So, yesterday we have seen the creations of Brahmaji and how he creates different sages, Pulatsya, Angira, Atri, Marichi, Pulaha, after the creation of Narada. And then his creation of lust and desire becoming manifest from the heart of Brahmaji. And there is this awkward incident of Vakam Duhitaram Tanvim. So, and Prabhupada writes a very strong purport here. One should take the note of this incident that the human beings are social animals and his unrestricted mixing can lead to downfall. And therefore, one has to be very careful in one's dealing. And what this literally means is one should be following the Vaishnava etiquettes very carefully. We come to text 29. तमधर्मे कृतमितिं विलोक्यं पितरं सुतां मरीचि मुख्या मुनयो विश्रम्भात प्रत्यबोधयन्. Translation.
Thus, finding their father so deluded in an act of immorality, the sages, headed by Marichi, all sons of Brahma, spoke as follows with great respect. Purport: the sages like Marichi were not in the wrong in submitting their protests against the acts of their great father. They knew very well that even though their father committed a mistake, there must have been some great purpose behind the show. Otherwise, such a great personality could not have committed such a mistake. It might be that Brahma wanted to warn his subordinates about human frailties in their dealings with women. This is always very dangerous for persons who are on the path of self realization. Therefore, great personalities like Brahma, even when in the wrong, should not be neglected. Nor could the great sages headed by Marichi show any disrespect because of his extraordinary behavior. Hare Krishna.
Very amazing purport. The sages like Marichi, finding their father in so deluded act of immorality, headed by Marichi, the sages, all sons of Brahma, spoke to Brahmaji with great respect. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the sages like Marichi, not in wrong in submitting their protest against the act of their great father. So the great father committing a great mistake, but sages like Marichi, they are neither blindly following nor they are laughing at the behavior of Brahmaji. Now Prabhupada writes amazing purport here. They knew very well that even though their father committed a mistake, there must have been some great purpose behind the show. Otherwise, such a great personality could not have committed such a mistake. Right. So, and what is the purpose that we see later? That purpose is create the element of lust and cover the living entity with the element of lust So they can fulfill their wrong desire of lording it over material nature and trying to be the exploitator. Right. And so very, very amazing statement Srila Prabhupada writes here. They knew very well that even though their father committed a mistake, there must have been some great purpose behind the show. Otherwise, such a great personality would not have committed such a great mistake. Right. There is always dangerous for a person, Prabhupada writes here, even though Brahmaji wanted to warn his subordinates about the human frailties in dealing with the woman. There is a modern day, very amazing thinker. He passed away very recently, Charlie Munger. Okay. One of the very famous quote of Charlie Munger. He is if you are not aware, he is like the duo, Warren Buffett and his friend Charlie Munger. Warren Buffett he's 96-year-old. Charlie Munger was 99-year-old. And they were together for more than 60 years of, the breakthrough investment journey. So he has a very famous quote. He says that there are only three things that a man can go crazy. L3 mistake, he calls it. Liquor, ladies, and leverage. Okay. Liquor, ladies, and leverage. So this is the L3 mistake one should never commit. So, of course, mistakes show that you're always learning, but the regret shows that you never took the first step. Okay. So by first thing is to regret, that is the first step, and then not to commit the mistake again. So human frailties are there, and that's why one should always remember the example that that man is considered as a fire, woman is considered as a fire, and man is considered as a butter. And one has to be careful, and Brahmaji is showing by his own example. And when such a great personality like Brahma, even though in wrong, should not be neglected. This is important. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktaha pranashyati. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. So such a personality should not be ridiculed. And later we'll see some people ridiculed Brahmaji like that, and they had to take a birth of the demon and take that birth as an offense to Lord Brahma. So such is a very, very awkward position, and one has to handle it very carefully. And most of the time we should realize that we are not the person to handle such a mistake. So they should not be neglected for such extraordinary behavior. And at the same time, so Marichi and others, they began to pray to Lord Brahmaji as follows. Text 30. Naitat purvai kritam tvate na karishanti chapare yastvam duhitaram gaccher anigriyan angacham prabhu. Translation.
Translation. O Father, this performance in which you are endeavoring to complicate yourself was never attempted by any other Brahma, nor by anyone else, nor by you in previous kalpas, nor will anyone dare to attempt it in the future. You are the supreme being in the universe. So how is it that you want to have sex with your daughter and cannot control your desire? Purport. The post of Brahma is the supermost post in the universe, and it appears that there are many Brahmas and many universes besides the one in which we are situated. One who fills this post must be ideal in behavior, for Brahma sets the example for all living entities. Brahma, the living entity who is the most pious and spiritually elevated, is entrusted with a post next to that of the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
All these sages, they supplement to Brahmaji. They said that, my dear father, this act of immorality was never done by anybody else. There are so many Brahmas. They have never done this. Neither anybody else have such a kind of activity, that you are pondering. Action is not happened. There is only a contemplation by Brahmaji like this, one odd thought. And this was captured by these great sages. And neither by you in the previous kalpa. How can you think of? So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the post of Brahma is the supermost post in the universe. He is Mahajan, Swayambhu, Narada. So, first is Brahmaji is the Mahajan. And there are many Brahmas, besides, there are many universes. So, what it means is that there is always a tripod of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So, this triangle has to be followed. Guru, Sadhu means other spiritual masters, and Shastra predominantly means Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one's activities of one's spiritual teacher, they have to be in sync with other spiritual teachers. This is very important. Like somebody will have their own spiritual master, their own counselor, and their activities. Of course, the mood may be slightly different. Somebody may have book distribution as a mood, somebody may have deity worship as the mood, somebody may have varnashram development as the mood. That is a personal flavor. But by and large, this triangle, the tripod, will always fit in that the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So the activities of the Guru, they should be sanctioned by Sadhu. Sadhu means the other spiritual masters, and Shastra. We have to see whether other spiritual masters are also instructing in the similar way. Other counselors are they instructing in the similar way? This is the check and balance tripod system, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And Guru and Sadhu, they should be in sync with Shastra. And Shastra has become so simple. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have not only the original Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we also have the Bhaktivedanta purports. Right? So this tripod has to be followed. One should not be in such a blind love with one's seniors that this tripod is followed. Neither one should be always doubting that whether it is followed or not. But one should maintain that sense of sanity. And one should be aware that, yes, this is where the system things fit in. So there are many Brahmas in many universes besides the one which we are in. Brahma sets the example for all the living entities. And Brahma is the person who is most pious and spiritually most advanced. And this is literally the post Prabhupada writes next to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all these sages, they realize there has to be a purpose behind Brahma's such activity, not activity, such contemplation. And the purpose is going to be described now. Text 31. Tejiyasamapi he tanna sushlokyam jagataguro yadvrittan anutishtan vai lokah kshemaya kalpate. Translation.
Even though you are the most powerful being, this act does not suit you because your character is followed for spiritual improvement by people in general. Purport. It is said that a supremely powerful living entity can do anything and everything he likes, and such acts do not affect him in any way. For example, the sun, the most powerful fiery planet in the universe, can evaporate water from anywhere and still remain as powerful. The sun evaporates water from filthy places and yet is not infected with the quality of the filth. Similarly, Brahma remains unimpeachable in all conditions. But still, since he is the spiritual master of all living entities, his behavior and character should be so ideal that people will follow such sublime behavior and derive the highest spiritual benefit. Therefore, he should not have acted as he did.
They began to say, even though you are the most powerful being, you are Sushlokyam Jagat Guru, it is not suitable for you in act. In act means in the contemplation of the act. Because whatever you are do, it is going to be followed by people in general. That, what is the shloka in Bhagavad Gita which says, Shrestha? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that there are some yad yad acharati shrestha tatta devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate. Yad yad acharati shrestha. Whatever the shrestha performs the acharan, the similar acharan will be performed by all others, those who are following him. And everybody is a leader in one's own capacity. Somebody is a father, somebody is a mother, somebody is a the group leader. There are always people who are looking up to us, and therefore, depending on how many, but there are people always looking up to us, and therefore our behavior will be followed by people in general. Therefore they said, oh dear father, although you are such a great personality and you can do anything and everything, but this does not befit you. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the sun, who is extremely powerful, and sun can through the sun rays can enter the stool and urine and completely evaporate without becoming even slightly unaffected. That is the potency of the sun. But others cannot do the same. They will become contaminated. If we touch the stool and urine, we become ashuchi. We have to come home, immediately take bath, and then we have to become purified. Right? There is other such examples like Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva can drink poison. Of course, he drinks poison for saving the universe. But by imitating Lord Shiva, if somebody tries to drink, there was this very famous Bollywood song, Jai Jai Shiva Shankar, and they are drinking some bhang or something like that, chanting the name of Lord Shiva, that will only contaminate you. Lord Shiva is extremely powerful. There's another story of Lord Shiva's incarnation, Shankaracharya. And when Shankaracharya came, when he was just moving across with all the disciples, he came across a brothel, liquor shop. And the liquor shop person, he just challenged him. He said that if everything is Brahman, is this liquor also Brahman? Shankaracharya just took the bottle, drank it, and he said, Brahman entering the Brahman. And he drank the bottle full, threw the bottle. And all the disciples, they said, wow, Guru Maharaj, Jai Ho. And they also picked up the bottle. And Shankaracharya said, wait for the next shop. The next shop was the blacksmith shop where there was a molten iron was kept. And that person began to argue with Shankaracharya and said, oh Shankara, is this Brahman? And Shankaracharya said, yes, this is also Brahman. He picked up that molten iron and drank the molten iron. Molten iron he drank. And everybody was like stunned. So the Mahi Assam, extremely powerful people, they are very difficult to be followed. That's why people, they dance and they say that we are also doing Rasa Leela like Lord Krishna. This is utter stupidity. Right? So they said that, oh, our dear father, you can do anything and everything, but you are also the leader. You are also Jagat Guru. Your acts will be followed in the universe by living entities. And therefore, for their spiritual benefit, please refrain from this contemplation. Text 32. Tasmai namo bhagavate ya idam svena rochita atmastam vyajasamasa sadharma patumarhati. Translation.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. Purport. Lust for sexual intercourse is so strong that it appears herein that Brahma could not be dissuaded from his determination in spite of appeal by his great sons like Marichi. Therefore, the great sons began to pray to the Supreme Lord for the good sense of Brahma. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of the lusty material desires. The Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service, and by his causeless mercy, he forgives that accidental fall of the devotee. Therefore, sages like Marichi prayed for the mercy of the Lord, and their prayer was fruitful.
Now, the sages began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Tasmai namo bhagavate ya idam svena rochita. They began to pray that let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he protect the religion for all goodness. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the lust is so strong, and that's why it is one of the three gates. Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobhas. Tasmat etat trayam tejet. And one should not think that when Prabhupada is explaining about anger, there is explanation of transcendental anger. And the example is given of Hanumanji, Arjuna. But even that transcendental anger, Hanumanji later became very regretful and he was thinking, why burnt Lanka? But what happened to Mother Sita? I don't know what has happened to Mother Sita. And he was just panicking. So these things one has to be very careful. Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobhas. Tasmat etat trayam tejet. And seeing the overwhelming lust, the great sages began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Tasmai namo bhagavate. And Srila Prabhupada says, the great sons began to pray to the Supreme Lord for the good sense of Brahmaji. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of the lusty desires. So when we pray to the Supreme Lord, today is appearance day of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and Balaramji comes as Nityananda Prabhu. And when Balaramji comes, he comes with such infinite mercy. Markhe prem den dayal turahi. We are hearing this Purusha incarnations. We are seeing how Brahmaji is offering prayers to Purusha, and how the entire manifestation is coming from this Purusha incarnations. And Nityanand Prabhu, Lord Balaram Nitai, is the original source of all these Purusha incarnations. But when he comes in Kali Yuga, especially as Nityanand Prabhu, he takes the beating of the people, Markhe, and still awarding Krishna Prema. So today is a very, very auspicious day of appearance day of Nityanand Prabhu. We are also celebrating the foundation day, temple opening day of NVCC temple here in Pune. So one should pray to the mercy of Nityanand Prabhu. And when one prays to the mercy of Nityanand Prabhu, by the grace of the Supreme Lord Nityananda, one can be protected from the allurement of the lusty desires. The Lord gives protection to the devotees who are always engaged in transcendental loving service. So this is another thing. And what is that protection? The protection is engagement in devotional service. Kama Krishna Karmarpane. This is very, very important. That when we are engaged in positive devotional service to the Supreme Lord, reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, visiting temple, morning program, once in a week, twice in a week, hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in the temple, whenever there is a festival, performing services for the festival, hosting the programs in the house, doing some very regular seva. One should have some very, very regular identifiable service in the temple, local temple, whichever temple we are connected to. One should be contributing, one should be resourceful. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj used to say very beautifully, he used to say that pray to Krishna that I become more valuable for ISKCON. By my services, by my resources, let me add some value. So when person is engaged like that, Kama Krishna Karma Arpane, one can eliminate the sense of kama, the lust, by engagement in devotional service. Many times people feel that, oh, I have become so weak spiritually. How can I go to temple? No, it is like somebody feeling that I am so sick. How can I go to doctor? When you are sick, that is the time you are supposed to go to doctor. So similarly, when we feel spiritually weak, when we are feeling, the weakness is there, one should immediately take shelter of the devotees. And devotees also should be aware that if at all we have to be something, we have to be always very kind to people. We have to avoid being judgmental. We have to avoid being, questioning to the other people, and give that shelter, give that mercy of the Lord Nityanand Prabhu, which is very freely available in the centers of ISKCON. So today is a very auspicious day of Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. So Lord gives protection to us, to the devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service. And this is a very important thing. Kama Krishna Karma Arpane. When you do Krishna Karma, Kama will go away. The passion has to be engaged in karma, and that karma should be Krishna Karma. Krodha Bhakta Dveshi Jane. This is a beautiful poem by Narottam Das Thakur. The Lord always forgives the accidental fall down of a devotee, and therefore sages like Marichi prayed to the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and their prayer was fruitful. Okay, so this is the beauty. The prayer was very fruitful. Text 33. Sa itham grinata putran puro društva prajapatin prajapatis patis tanvan tatyajya vikritastada tam disho jagahor ghoram niharam yad vidustamaha. Translation.
The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness. Purport. The best way to compensate for one's sinful acts is to give up one's body at once, and Brahma, the leader of the living entities, showed this by his personal example. Brahma has a fabulous duration of life, but he was obliged to give up his body due to his grievous sin, even though he had merely contemplated it in his mind without having actually done it. This is a lesson for the living entities, showing how sinful an act it is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. Even to think of abominable sex life is sinful, and to compensate for such acts, one has to give up his body. In other words, one's duration of life, blessings, opulence, etc. are decreased by sinful acts, and the most dangerous type of sinful act is unrestricted sex. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, or sinful life is the cause of gross ignorance. The feature of ignorance is darkness or fog. Darkness or fog still covers the whole universe, and the sun is the only counteracting principle. One who takes shelter of the Lord, the perpetual light, has no fear of being annihilated in the darkness of fog or ignorance.
Brahmaji, when he heard these prayers, his own sons lamenting like this, praying to him, praying to the Supreme Lord, he at once became conscious of what his contemplation was. The father of Prajapatis, Brahma, seeking all his Prajapati sons, speaking in this way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body that he had accepted. That body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the best way to compensate one's sinful acts is to give up such body. So that doesn't mean committing suicide. So that is not the point here. So that giving up the body means giving up the bodily consciousness. Okay. Otherwise, body is very, very important. And in fact, this is the way one can perform devotional service. So giving up body here means giving up the bodily consciousness. And giving up the bodily consciousness means, okay, giving to be engaged in devotional service. So what is the meaning of giving up the body? Giving up the body means one has to be engaged in positive devotional service. This is very important, right? So he had merely contemplated. So there is no question of act, but in Satya Yuga and such great personalities, even the contemplation matters, right? So he had only merely contemplated of such a thing, and suddenly he became conscious of his contemplation, what he is thinking of, and he felt it is extremely sinful. In Kali Yuga, by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the grace of Nityanand Prabhu, in Kali Yuga, the mental aparadh, they are forgiven. Okay. But one should be very careful that, although the aparadh may be on the level of mind, but the contemplation can take mind into verbal and verbal into physical. Therefore, it should be nipped at the bud, and therefore one should be very careful. And what is the way? The way is very simple. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayor. One has to be engaged with mind and body in the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Right. So the lesson Prabhupada says is a very powerful lesson one can learn, that it is extremely sinful act to indulge in unrestricted sense gratification. Extremely sinful. This is the mother of all sin, right? And one has to be very careful. Otherwise, the mind is devil enough to justify any activity by quoting any example. So one has to be very careful about this one sinful activity. This is called as mother of sinful activity. The most dangerous sinful type of act is unrestricted sex life, which begins with contemplation. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. Therefore, not only we have to take care of ourselves, we have to take care of other people's also. In the sense that one has to be very mindful of one's actions, one has to be mindful of one's dressing, one has to be mindful of people nowadays. There is one good thing is there is such a enhanced awareness about visiting temple. Temple is a Shakti Peeth and people are visiting temple. And at the same time, people have no idea how to visit temple. Now, ISKCON after literally 40, 50 years, they have put up now some restrictions that how to come and how not to come. This is so civil, so basic it was. But one has to be very careful that, how we visit temple and another thing is public display of emotions. That also should be avoided. This has become very, very customary and normal nowadays to display publicly the emotions. So this is also, so one has to take care not only of oneself, but my conduct, my activities should not giving rise to this dangerous type of sinful act. Srila Prabhupada says further, ignorance is the cause of sinful life, or sinful life is the cause of the gross ignorance. Right. And The feature of ignorance is the darkness, andhatama. And the darkness of the fog still covers the whole universe. And the sun is the only counteracting principle. So, what is that sun? Krishna Surya Sam, Maya hai andhakar, Yahan Krishna tahanai, Maya radhikar. And when the same Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Krishna Balaram, they come in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, the mercy is abundantly available. So when we fast on such days, like today is Nityanand Trayodashi, we are fasting till 12 o'clock. And when we glorify Nityanand Prabhu's wonderful activities, when we contemplate on the mercy of Nityanand Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one can have the perpetual light. And this andhakar, fog of Maya will be, Prabhupada used to tell, show me Maya and I will beat her with my shoes. And what is that shoes? The shoes is the mercy of Nityanand Prabhu. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Jai Mahaprabhu
Thank
Bhagavan
you,
ki
Prabhupada.
jai.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.